Section 3. Muslim Ways of Life. Muslims were the leading merchants in the Middle East and northern Africa until the 1400s. Their caravans traveled overland from Baghdad to China. Their ships crossed the Indian Ocean to India and Southeast Asia. They carried spices, cloth, glass, and carpets. On their return, they brought rubies, silk, ivory, gold, and slaves. The success of Muslim traders. Several things explain the success of Muslim trade. When Muslim empires expanded, they spread the Arabic language. As a result, Arabic became the language of trade. Muslim rulers also made trade easier by providing merchants with coins. Muslim merchants kept detailed records of their daily deals, of their business deals, and the money they made. In time, these practices developed into a new business, banking. Muslims respected traders for their skills and the wealth they created. What were Muslim cities like? Trade helped the leading Muslim cities grow. Baghdad, Cairo, and Damascus were located on trade routes that ran from the Mediterranean Sea to Central Asia. However, Muslim cities were not the only places of trade. They also became important centers of government learning and the arts. Muslim cities looked very similar. The major buildings were palaces and mosques. Mosques are Muslim houses of worship. They also serve as schools, courts, and centers of learning. Another important part of every Muslim city was the bazaar, or marketplace. Stalls and shops made up the bazaars. Sellers in the stalls and shops sold goods from Asia. Buyers from all over, including Europe, went from stall to find goods to take home and sell. Although cities were important, most Muslims lived in villages and farmed the land. Because water was scarce, Muslim farmers used irrigation to bring water to their crops. They grew wheat, rice, beans, and melons in the fields. They raised almonds, blackberries, apricots, figs, and olives in their orchards. Some farmers also raised flowers for use in perfume. At first, Muslim villagers owned small farms. Later, wealthy landowners took over some of these farms and formed large estates. Farmers and enslaved people worked for the landowners. Muslim society. The Muslim people fell into social groups based on power and wealth. At the top were government leaders, landowners, and traders. Below them were artisans, farmers, and workers. The lowest group was made up of enslaved people. As in other civilizations, slavery was widespread. Because Muslims could not be enslaved, traders brought enslaved people from non-Muslim areas. Many of these people were prisoners of war. They often served as servants or soldiers and could buy back their freedom. Men and women played different roles in the Muslim world. As in other parts of the world, men ran government, society, and business. Women, on the other hand, helped run Muslim families. They also could inherit wealth and own property. Many places had laws requiring women to cover their faces and to wear long robes in public. Muslim achievements. Arabic was the common language of the Muslim empires. You have already read how Arabic language encouraged trade. It also helped different people in the empires to share knowledge. For example, in AD 830, the Abbasid Caliph Ma'mun founded the House of Wisdom in Baghdad. Ma'mun staffed his center with Christian, Jewish, and Muslim scholars. These scholars exchanged ideas and rewrote Greek, Persian, and Indian works in Arabic. Scholars in Muslim lands saved much of the learning of the ancient world. Europeans in the West had lost this knowledge after the Western Roman Empire fell. Through Muslim scholars, Western Europeans found out about Aristotle and other ancient Greek thinkers. Mathematics and science. Muslims made important advances in mathematics. Later, they passed on these discoveries to Europeans. For example, Muslims invented algebra, a type of mathematics still taught in schools today. The Arabs also borrowed the symbols 0 through 9 from Hindu scholars in India. These numbers were later used by Europeans. Today, they are known as Arabic numerals. Muslims also made progress in science. Muslim scientists who studied the heavens perfected the Greek astrolabe. Sailors used this tool to study the stars and then determine their location at sea. Muslim scientists used the astrolabe to measure the size and distance around the Earth. Based on their measurements, they realized that the Earth was round. Other Muslim scientists experimented with metals and kept records of their work. As a result, the Arabs are considered the founders of chemistry. One of the best-known Muslim chemists was Al-Razi, who lived from AD 65 to AD 925. Al-Razi developed a system for categorizing substances as animals, mineral, or vegetable. He also wrote books for doctors that helped them to identify diseases. Arab doctors were the first to discover that blood circulates or moves to and from the heart. The Persian doctor Ibn Sina showed how diseases spread from person to person. As they worked, Muslim doctors published their findings. Muslim writing. The Quran is probably the most famous collection of writings in the Muslim world, but Muslims produced other famous works as well. One of the most well-known is the 1001 Nights, also called the Arabian Nights. It includes tales from India, Persia, and Arabia. One of the stories tells about Aladdin and his magic lamp. Another Muslim, the Persian poet Omar Khayyam, wrote the Rubaiyat around 1100. Many considered it one of the finest poems ever written. In addition to stories and poems, Muslims wrote history. The great Muslim historian Ibn Khaldun wrote in 1375 that all civilizations rise, grow, and then fall. He was also one of the first historians to study the effect of geography and climate on people. Art and buildings. Muslims developed their own form of art based on Islam. Muslims are not allowed to show images of Muhammad or the events of his life in art. They believe that such images might cause people to worship Muhammad instead of Allah. Instead, designs entwined with flowers, leaves, and stars make up most Muslim art. Muslims use these designs to decorate walls, books, rugs, and buildings. Muslims were known for their beautiful buildings. Mosques filled with Muslim cities like Baghdad, Damascus, Cairo, and Istanbul. Domes top many of the mosques, but a mosque's most striking feature is its minarets. These are towers from which a crier, or announcer, calls believers to pray 5 times a day. Islamic rulers lived in a large brick palace. These palaces often had courtyards at their center. To cool the courtyards, palace builders added porches, fountains, and pools. To provide protection, they surrounded the palaces with walls. The most famous example of a Muslim palace is Alhambra in Granada, Spain. It was built in the 1300s. Another famous Muslim building is the Taj Mahal in Agra, India. The Mughal ruler Shah Jahan built it as a tomb for his wife after she died in 1629. Made of marble and precious stone, the Taj Mahal is one of the world's most beautiful buildings. Today, the Muslim empires are gone. However, Islam is still a major world religion, and about 1 out of every 6 persons in the world is a Muslim.